Hi there, welcome to this quest. So in the previous quest, remember we looked at some fundamental concepts of electrostatics, right? We looked at the type of charges, we looked at what conductors are, we looked at what insulators are, and we even looked at the electroscope. So in this quest, let's start with charging. So what is this charging? Now, charging refers to the gain or loss of an electron. We can also call it the production of charges. Now, there are three ways of charging an object. You can charge an object by friction, you can also charge it by contact, and you can also charge it by the process called induction. Now, we will treat each of these in our subsequent lessons, but let's start with friction in this lesson. Now, when you rub one material against another, the electrons of one of the material will come very close to the protons of the other material. Now, even when you do this in a dark room, you might see some sparks between the surfaces. Now, since different materials have different affinities for electrons, one material will take electrons from the atom of the other material. Now, by the time the rubbing has stopped, one material would have gained electrons while the other would have lost some electrons. Now, the material that gained the electrons will become negatively charged, while the material that lost these electrons will become positively charged. So the amount of electrons gained will be equal to the amount of electrons that is lost. In other words, we can say that the net charge of the system is conserved. Now, let's take several examples of this. If you rub a glass rod and a piece of silk cloth vigorously, the cloth sticks to the glass rod if you let go of the cloth, especially if you're doing this on a dry day. This is because the glass rod loses electrons and becomes positively charged, while the silk cloth will gain these electrons and become negatively charged. You can also try this at home if you want, but let's see another example. Now, if you take your biro and rub it vigorously against your hair, then you bring this biro very close to small pieces of paper, what you notice is that the pieces of paper begin to cling to the biro like a magnet. This is also because the biro gains electric charges and becomes negatively charged, and your hair will lose the same electrons and will become positively charged. Now let's look at the final example. Now, have you heard of accidents involving oil tankers that explode spontaneously? Now, I know you've always wondered why. Now, this scenario is relevant to us in this lesson. For example, when the air is dry and the tanker is moving through it for a while, as the vehicle travels through this dry air, electric charges are created on the surface by friction between this vehicle and the dry air. Now, if there happens to be a leak, of the fuel through evaporation, or it is dropping or leaking out, the result can be a small explosion that can even set the whole tanker ablaze. Do you see why it is powerful for us to study physics? Because it helps us understand these daily phenomena and shows us how to use them to our own advantage and safety. So we'll see more of this in our coming lessons. I'll see you guys then. Bye for now.